This is part 2 of a 2-part podcast.
Hi, this is Mark. There are a lot of reasons to get angry these days, but I prefer to focus on the positive things that we each can do to make this world a better place. The book, Building a Better World in Your Backyard, Instead of Being Angry at Bad Guys, is a great resource for just that. Instead of throwing my arms up in frustration at governments or big corporations, there's a list of ideas that we each can tackle to affect change. Information about this book and other resources can be found at permies.com.
Oh, I feel like there's probably 8 more powerful things about living on Hawaii, but there's more challenges. The challenges just keep going and going and going, and on top of that, there's the tourist industry, which is, there's more tourist industry there than there is, say, in Montana. Like in Montana, there's a lot of tourist industry. A lot of people want to come here. Yellowstone Park, Glacier National Park, things like that. Hell, Missoula is beautiful. But I would imagine, my understanding is that in Hawaii it is probably 100 times more tourist-driven per capita than here in Montana. Does that sound like plausible?
Yeah. A lot of times you'll have double. So you'll have like 60,000 people maybe on Kauai at certain times, and then you might have double that. You might have 120,000 people there because the other 60,000 are there for tourism at certain times of the year. But a lot of times, and it creates that they're economic is probably the reason people go home or go wherever. That's not Hawaii. They go away the most. And so in systems wise, there's a few places that bring in money. There is government stuff, like you might work for the school or the government in another capacity. You might work for the military. There's military bases on Hawaii, or you might work for essentially the tourism industry or the offshoots of that. And those are the main things that make any money in Hawaii.
Right.
That I know of.
Because having other industries, it's kind of hard. Like we make widgets, and then we put the widgets on a giant boat, and then suddenly everything costs a lot more because it took a long time to get to our buyers on the boat, and the boat costs some monies, and plus we had to pay everybody here kind of double. And so it turns out that making widgets, it's cheaper to make widgets on the mainland than to make them on Hawaii.
Yes, buy our widgets. They're the same and they cost double. Yes. But also, if you're imagining you could go to Hawaii and then ship a bunch of avocados to the mainland, which I think would be really great, you can't generally, because there are funguses and diseases and pests in Hawaii that aren't on the mainland, so they don't let you ship anything over unless it's been really thoroughly inspected. And there's a bunch of rules, and there's some things you just can't ship at all, and other things you have to do a difficult inspection thing to send it over. So I don't know of people sending things to the mainland, hardly at all, even though the mainland would love to get those lilikoi, and they'd pay a high price for them, or organic pineapples or whatnot. It is very challenging and involves a lot of regulation to get things shipped off, and then it's expensive, and you're competing with places like Mexico that can do ground transportation, and that's challenging.
So you're taking on a lot of Hawaii challenges, and you've got reasons to live there. At the top of the list is the allergies thing. So there are certain times of the year that you can come to Montana because whatever pollens we're sporting, they are hiding right now, and you can breathe. But different times of the year, you might be near death unless you're heavily medicated or something. Now, I used to have hay fever, and now I don't. And so I kind of feel like a lot of the permaculture lifestyle, in a way, like eating strictly organic, and then plus, as much as I love pie is more of an occasional treat, and most recently, the last year and a half, occasional transformed into brutally rare as I pursue my own health stuff. But it does seem like I've gotten even healthier in so many ways because I'm doing this health care. The thing is that I haven't had any kind of hay fever for over 10 years. But then I did have an allergic reaction to something a few years ago, but I have not had anything in the last year and a half while I've been eating, too much kale. But and we can grow kale here. We're growing kale.
You could eat the kale you grow. You can grow the kale. And in fact, you can be really careful about, okay, this definitely has not had any slugs on it. There's ways to do it. It's just you have to really respect the problem. And I think if you're really new, it's hard to be like, oh, it's just a snail, fine, whatever, it'll be fine. And it is rare that people get cases of rat lungworm, so it might be easy to disregard. But you mustn't do it if you're me, and I believe that you mustn't do it.
Yeah.
Because it can be very devastating if you roll the dice and hit the wrong number.
So I should probably record a podcast with some health professionals in the future to talk about basically, because Sepp Holzer has a lot to say about how like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, nobody had allergies. Nobody. There was no such thing as allergies. And I don't know how true that is, but he would say it. But then he had a lot more to say about how to get rid of allergies today. And I can echo what he said, but I don't know if that is true or not. But I kind of feel like, all right, I don't follow that entirely. But I do think that when I had my allergies, I probably was eating less organic and possibly more grain than I do now, or I've done in the last 10 years. So, all right. Oh, now I'm going to tell the story of Belize. There's a guy living in Montana, a permaculture guy. And I'm at his presentation, and I'm watching, and he's like, here's my trip to Belize. And he's saying, here's all the cool permaculture things growing there, and every day for every meal we just walk out and pluck the food right off the branches and eat it immediately. And this is life in Belize, and there's pictures and happy people, and everything is perfect and dreamy and wonderful. What a Kodak moment. And he was there for over a month, and it's like, then somebody, and I swear it wasn't me, asked the question, if it was that great, why don't you live there all the time instead of Montana? And he said, oh, right, that. And he said, because every night at dinner, you would have a ritual where each person, one by one, would strip naked and stand before their friends as their friends would pick all the parasites off of them. And boy, Montana sure looks good hearing that story. I can see why he decided to not be there anymore. In fact, maybe a month was too long. That sounds horrible. And in Montana, I don't believe I've ever had a parasite. which is suddenly a great selling point. But again, I think people go to Belize or other wonderful, warm, tropical places because they read the 4-color brochure and they're not aware of the fine print.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. Hawaii does not have the same parasite load right now as more things get brought to Hawaii all the time. The mosquito did not used to be in Hawaii. It was brought there. Imagine without the mosquitoes. It's a nice daydream. So there's leptospirosis in the water potentially. So fresh water, you don't want to get that up in your nose holes. But because it could eat up your brains, but you just got to keep it out of your nose holes and you're fine. There's a lot of things that you would, if you grew up there culturally, it would be like, oh yeah, that's fine, that's normal, I know how to deal with it, it's fine. But if you didn't grow up there, you might be like, that is a surprise that I'm not ready to encounter, and I don't want to have to make those kinds of changes to my habits.
Well, even visiting there, I've heard that like some of the beaches you can walk barefoot on. Like, oh, look at me, I'm walking on the beach. So I want to compare it. So you've been out to Arrakis here multiple times. You were here 5 years ago. You're here now. The sand in Arrakis is lovely. It's a very soft sand, and you can walk barefoot in it all day. And it's delightful and comfortable. And granted, the rest of the property is a giant rock, and it's mysterious that there's sand there, but that's another story for another day. However, There's also sand in Hawaii, but it's different kinds. So some places have sand like Arrakis, but that's kind of rare. Most of the places have more of a pebbly thing that you can walk on, but I would say most, my understanding, and again, I've never been to Hawaii, my understanding is most of the beaches in Hawaii, you probably need to wear shoes.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I would not say that.
Oh, good. Okay, go ahead.
No, there are beaches where if you walk barefoot on that sand, it will cut off your feet because it's made of like little shards of volcanic rock that aren't tiny enough yet, and they will just cut up your feet. So there are things like that. And like if you go out swimming in the water, you might kick the coral or other things in the water that would like cut you and then be a bad cut that you wouldn't want. So you might want that in the water. But on the ocean shore, there are so many different kinds of sandy beaches, like all different kinds. So but in the Pacific Northwest, you might go to the ocean and the sand is truly like dust. It's fine. It's sparkly, like it's super tiny. You've never seen tinier. And it's because it's made out of a different kind of rock. So in Hawaii, it's often made out of little bits of volcanic rock or little bits of coral or shell or different. It might be made out of all different kinds of things, depending on where you're at. So you might get size like beaches that are the size of maybe like a fourth of a lentil. And those are sort of easier to clean off sometimes because they're not so tiny. But so it's different. There are a lot of different beaches. You kind of have to know, like, oh, be careful on this beach.
So you can go barefoot on maybe half of the beaches. I made up that number, half, and be okay. But some of them it's going to be more comfortable on your feet than others. And then on the other half, you probably want to wear shoes.
I don't think it's half, but it does depend where you are. It's just different from island to island.
Right.
And the areas of the different islands because of the geology. There we go.
I know that walking on beaches in Washington State and Oregon and even California, I mean, there's been beaches that I've been to that were like pea gravel, so they're like rounded, they're like peas, and then walking around on them is not too bad. It's not too great, but it's not too bad. But most of the beaches, like 90%, they're a sandy beach, and the sand is very nice to walk on. Like easily go barefoot. It is soft, and I think my understanding is Hawaii beaches are not like that, and there's going to be a few that are like that. But now you're making all right. I'm trying. Just throw me a bone here. Give me a little bit of clarity on the. I just heard that people were surprised. Like they go to Hawaii thinking they're going to go walk on the beautiful beaches barefoot, and then they were kind of like, barefoot might not be a good idea.
It does. So on Kauai, I have more experience on Kauai than the other ones. There weren't any beaches that had sand that I couldn't walk barefoot on. I have some tougher feet than some people. So maybe if they're taking them out of their office shoes and taking their socks off for the first time that year, there might be some that are like, this is too pokey. But most of the beaches, I think, on Kauai, you could just walk with your bare feet just fine. It might be too hot, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a common beachy thing. I mean, Arrakis is that way a lot, too. And, the beaches in Oregon and California, etc., like that. Oh, yeah. But I guess I'm trying to talk about the texture, and people were kind of like, oh, yeah, it's too sharp. It hurts your feet. And granted, there is that element of like, I've been walking in these shoes around the office for the last 10 years, and this is my first trip to Hawaii, and now I'm going to finally take off my socks. And now I'm going to walk, and ouch.
Yeah.
So
that can happen. That can absolutely happen, and that it can depend on the beach very heavily.
Okay.
But there's a lot of tourist beaches that would be like they've picked those as the ones because of their appropriateness. The beaches are generally not a lie. You can have a lovely beaches experience, and lovely hiking experiences, and lovely picking the fruit off the trees experiences in Hawaii. Although with the water at the beaches, after a big rain, because of various situations, there will be a lot of runoff down the different rivers into the ocean. And the rivers runoff will contain a lot of the contents of people's cesspools. And that will go into the water in the ocean. It will make the water brown and cloudy and bad, full of E. coli.
Yeah.
And so you can go and just check. There's websites where you can check the water E. coli level before you go out. And if you know it's been a big rain, the next day you're probably not going to go to the water. So there's something you just have to be conscious of. Kind of like if you're running off-grid on solar panels, you're kind of constantly conscious of your electricity use so that you make sure your batteries are good and you're not, like how sunny was it today? You're kind of like, okay, how is the water condition? Like just like with surfers will be like, how are the waves? Everyone will be like, oh, how's the fecal coliform count?
Right. Oh, okay. So I think that another thing I want to throw in here real quick, I want to go back sort of kind of a little bit to the thing about how so many people get discouraged 1 to 3 months in, and then they go back to the mainland. They arrive in Hawaii with the idea of great permaculture dreams. My concern in this space is that they might think that all of permaculture sucks because, I'm saying this is my concern. So you guys didn't see it, but Katie made a face.
I was like, what?
I got the message. I am concerned that people think all because I was like, I went to Hawaii to do permaculture and it was unacceptable. So I came home. I went back to eating at restaurants, and I got a regular job, and I just ditched all. I tried permaculture once, and I learned it wasn't for me, and so that's where that's a big part of where I'm coming from. Is I mean, naturally, I think that, and again, I want to come back to like, I think being here in Montana, having beaten hay fever, that Montana is the best, and better than the Seattle area, better than Puget Sound. Puget Sound has other stuff going for it, but I don't know. For my soul, I mean, here, and I can't remember who I was telling this to the other day, but somebody was trying to ask me, how do you spell Missoula? And it's like, well, it's got soul in it. See, yeah, and but Missoula is the best town in the world, I think, and I know everything. I mean, sloped land is the best. I mean, we made some podcasts talking about how to select land long ago. Oh, and you've listened to like all but a couple of my podcasts, so you're pretty well caught up. So you've heard. So this is great because if I could talk about a thing and it seems new to you, it's like, oh, that's not in a podcast. Good, cool. All right, so. I just feel like all these people that are trying to go to Costa Rica, South America, I mean, granted, there are great, good things there, but there's challenges in the fine print. I mean, if you're looking at only the 4-color brochure, you might be, and so, okay, go on that adventure, but be aware that it might turn out to be not a fit, but don't blame all of permaculture for that. Now, of course, Willie Smits and Jeff Lawton, all of their work is in tropical and subtropical climates, and they're doing great, and they're making it work. And I'm sure that there are fabulous permaculture places in Hawaii. There have been, I believe, 3 attempts to set up a permaculture event in Hawaii, and then I would be brought in as a speaker for the event, and so I'd get a free trip to Hawaii. But even more than that, I struggle to do any kind of travel at all because I'm so busy and with all the things that I do. Which, by the way, you probably had different plans for this morning, and here I whipped out this microphone and thrust it in your face, and it's burning up the morning.
I think I have one more thing to say probably about this. When I went to Hawaii, one of the biggest reasons was because of the growing season, because I really wanted to be able to play in that space and not have the growing season pull me in. But I was still pretty new. I mean, I'd been learning about permaculture only a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And so now I realize, watching people's videos about leaving potatoes and carrots in the ground all through this frost, like past the frost, and what kind of tricks you can do to extend your growing season in colder weather climates. I don't think it was necessary to go to Hawaii in order to get the longer growing season. I now see that was just me not having the full toolbox and just seeing what was there before any tools had been applied.
Did you taste the rhubarb jam?
Oh my gosh, the rhubarb jam was so good.
So I gotta say that some of my happiest memories from all of my life is with canning. And so making rhubarb jam, making raspberry jam, applesauce, the list just goes on and on. And so, in fact, the thing I keep trying to tell these guys is it's like, because they make a bunch of rhubarb jam and then they're opening the jars of rhubarb jam and it's like, yeah, see, you get it. And it's kind of like, no. See, we still have crops coming in. You eat the fresh stuff. But they're kind of like, but this is so good. And it's like, yeah, it's for winter. You got to let it sit on the shelf a little while, okay? Because it'll keep for years. But it's like it's supposed to be your winter supply, and so when we talk about Hawaii, like, oh, you can go get fresh fruit every day, and it's true, you can, and that's right there in the 4-color brochure.
Yes.
And it's like, and for us, it's going to be. Fall is going to have a lot of canning, a lot of running the solar food dehydrator. Did you get a chance to run that?
I watched people run it, but I didn't run it myself.
Okay, I mean it's been working hard the last few weeks.
Yes.
And I've tasted some of the stuff coming out of it, and it is like, yeah, it's like candy. Like it's a big giant candy machine. And all the food is coming in now, and we're harvesting it all, and we're putting it up. And trying to make it so that there's plenty over the winter for everybody. And that was another thing too, is they harvested a lot of sepulchre grain. So I can see over there's the loaf of bread made from sepulchre grain. Did you try that?
Yes, it was very good.
Okay. And so, but I had to stop them from making more flour because they were just like, this grinder is so cool, let's make 40 gallons of it. And it's like, no, wait. The flour will keep a couple of months, but the grain will keep 10 years. And if you do special things with the grain, you can get it to last 40 years. Oh, we shouldn't stop making flour. And so,
Hey, this is T. Blankenship. Are you a fan of pie? Where there's pie at Permies.com. This pie grants the user secret access. You also get free things like videos of Wheaton Labs, the ability to add 2 thumbs up to posts, and more. To get pie, go to Permies.com/pie to get the inside scoop of what pie can do for you. Again, that is Permies.com/pie.
It's a different way. I like this way so much. I like the gardening in Montana 5 times more than all the gardening I've ever done in the Seattle area. I like the whole thing. I mean, I love how Alan Booker has introduced me to the word biophilic, and the whole thing about firewood and staying warm in the winter, like being really warm when it's really cold outside. I don't know. There is something about that when you did it yourself that is soul building, the biophilicness of it. And now we're doing so much with cooling when it is so hot in the summer, and that feels smart. The whole thing where people here when it's cold, wearing layers, and then and I just think it's hilarious, like when Magdalene was wearing those overboots all winter, like whether it was cold out or not. So her autopilot was set. You put on your dainty boots that are fashionable, and then you put on the overboots, and then she clomps around. But you could always hear her coming. Here comes the clompy sound. It's Magdalene, yeah. So, but I don't know. This is different than life in Hawaii. But I think Because I guess I know a little bit about the fine print about living in Hawaii or living even in Seattle. And the gardening you can do here, when we garden, the amount of time that you think about funguses or insects or anything like that is 1/20th. I mean, it is. There's cats outside. How many fleas were on those cats?
None. Not one.
But why would you even bother to count?
Because usually cats have fleas.
Because in Hawaii, I imagine that they're just infested with fleas. Like each cat will have 100 fleas.
Oh, people put the flea stuff on their cats. Like they put the...
Oh, and so if they don't put the flea stuff, and does the cat survive the fleas?
Well...
Does it turn into little cat jerky?
No. Well, Hawaii has a big problem with feral cats.
Oh, so the cats survive on their own.
Well, because Hawaii has a big problem with feral chickens.
Okay.
Well,
and feral pigs.
Yeah, the feral pigs are a bigger, but the chickens are not. I don't know if I would call them the problem, but they're all over the place. And so there's a diet of baby chicks for the cats to be eating. So the cats are supported by in food ways, but there's just way too many of them, and they eat the native birds. The native birds oftentimes nest on the ground because they historically didn't have ground predators to eat their eggs, and so that's very hard. So Hawaii tries really hard to keep that feral cat population in check. And there are a lot of people who will go out and try to do the spay and release, spay and neuter and release programs, and then try to keep them alive and healthy, because if you have cats there, they take up room that other cats would take. So if you just get rid of the cats, more cats will replace them. If you take care of those cats after they've been spayed and neutered, then they will still take up that ecosystem spot and prevent other non-spayed and neutered cats to take that spot, if that's coming out right. Anyway, they will have fleas.
We have feral cats too. They're called mountain lions. They're bigger, but there's also some feral house cats around. That's and that's another story for another day. But we don't. I think that the amount of feral cats around here, including the mountain lions, is probably dramatically less than what you have in Hawaii. Yeah. But it's the fleas, though. I mean, that's kind of like when I was in the Seattle area. Every animal, it's like you got to solve the flea problem. But I imagine in Hawaii, the flea problem is 10 times more than it is in Seattle.
I don't know the answer to that. I think they were both bad. Both fleasy.
Yeah, fleasy. There you go. Whereas here, it's like, I have never seen a flea here. I'm sure they're here.
I didn't know there was a place where you don't see the fleas.
Yeah.
That's surprising. That's really awesome.
Yeah. And so, I don't recall ever seeing so I'm familiar with what fleas look like and how to control them and things like that from being in Seattle. But then here, there's nothing. I've never seen one. So, and even if I did see one, if there was one, I'd kind of probably be like, I'm going to ignore it, and it'll probably go away on its own, because fleas are just so unheard of here. I mean, I don't think that they do well with the winter. It just seems like there's more, like, permaculture works better here in my mind, by my standards, by the way I like to do it. There's something about, like, when you do the canning and you do the food preservation and you do all of these things, and I like to avoid the use of the freezer, but we do have a giant freezer. But these things feed my soul. Like when I have a big pantry full of food that I've put up, that feeds my soul. And I think that the idea is when people pursue a place like Hawaii, they're thinking like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to just walk out and grab whatever I want whenever I want it. I want to graze year round. Now, you're right. Potatoes and sunchokes. And now, I've heard that you can do it with carrots, and so I want to do some experimenting with carrots. But like what we're doing this year, because of the years past how comedy happened, we have put up little flags to mark where the sunchokes and potatoes are, with the idea that we'll circle around and dig them up in February or January, something like that. And my understanding is that I know that we've harvested them in January and February, sunchokes, and January and February. But the problem is we can't seem to remember where they were. And so this year we're putting in the flags. And then same for the potatoes. So we have every year after year more and more potatoes because we didn't get them all, and we have come up with a good system for winter storage. We've gotten a little lazy growing onions because we have walking onions. But the walking onions are we've got gazillions of walking onions right now. Definitely more than we could possibly eat in a year's time, or even for the next 20 years. We will probably never run out of walking onions. The problem is when you go to cook with them, they're smaller. They're a lot smaller. And so the cooks are kind of like, this is a hassle. And there might be ways to optimize that, but I don't know what that is.
I told myself next time I would be using the food processor because not only are they smaller, but they make your eyes tear up double the amount, and they're really healthy seeming. But I would, after peeling them, I would probably put them in the food processor and make it go much faster because I had to keep taking breaks to let my eyes open again from all the tears in them. And it wasn't like a nice smell, but it was just like, I can't see. I'm going to cut my hand off because I can't see what I'm cutting. So yes, I think food processor with the walking, but it's great because they're just making onions and spreading, and you have so much onion. I do like them. I want to do some of those. And walking onions do live in Hawaii as well. The other thing is that here in Montana versus Seattle, Montana has sun in the winter. Is that true?
Oh, right. We're famous for more than 300 days of sun in a year. There have been people who come to Montana from the Seattle area because the dreariness and the clouds gets to be too much, and they're weary of it. So, if you love the sun, this is the place to be. For me, this is going to sound weird, but the thing when I went to the coastal areas for work, and then I eventually came back, and I moved to Missoula. Although I didn't move to my hometown, I moved to Missoula. The thing I needed, the thing that was driving me crazy, I was living in Eugene, the thing that was driving me crazy was the lack of I called it real rain. Because the rain that they had there in Eugene was kind of like this odd mist that would slowly fall from the sky. I mean, you'd go outside and you'd get soaked. It's rain. But it was this weird kind of pathetic rain, and it was just always there. Whereas here in Montana, like I'm gonna use an inappropriate expression. Forgive me. We have man's rain.
That sounds terrible.
It comes down all at once.
I think you're getting that.
And those are industrial sized raindrops. Those are big ass raindrops there. And it falls from the sky. And it falls from the sky. It's like you know it. You feel it.
Okay, I'm going to up you. In Hawaii, we have Gaia's rain.
Gaia's rain. Ooh, that sounds pretty cool.
You can get 10 inches in a night. You can get 10 inches in a couple hours. You get water coming down hills you never knew were a river.
We never have that in Montana, but that sounds pretty cool. That sounds like what I needed when I was living in Eugene, and it's like I'm tired of this weird rain that's not rain, and it's kind of driving me a little bit crazy. And it's like I just need to go back where there's proper rain. And I don't know what that is. Now, of course, we have lots of sun, and we have thunderstorms. And we don't have tornadoes. We don't have hurricanes. We will have an earthquake once in a long while, but it'll be nothing compared to where earthquakes are real.
You got forest fire hazards, but so does Hawaii. I was surprised to find out that we have big problems with, especially probably everyone knows about Maui having big problems with, and that was because of hurricane level winds, creating a way that the fire would spread just instantly over a long way. Yeah. So that was really bad, and so that's very unfortunate. Probably nobody's, well, I don't know, maybe if you don't have trees, but it's hard to be safe from forest fires anywhere.
There goes your food forest.
Yes.
In an instant.
Yeah, in your house. And yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. So, there's wildfires around here. I would have to say for the last 5 years, the wildfire stuff has been dramatically less. And I don't know whether we've just burned up a lot of it and gotten it out of our system, or, have they finally adopted preventative ways?
That would be great. I would love it if that was the answer.
I do know that every winter there's a lot of smoke because what they do is through the summer, the warm season, they go into the woods and they try to do fuel mitigation, wildfire fuel mitigation, and they throw it all into a pile, and then they throw a tarp over it, and then in the winter they set it on fire to burn it all, which it's a very smoky, gross fire. And then, of course, at my place, what we do is we try to find uses for that wood that is not doing that.
I'm curious to know, maybe a future podcast, you will give us a podcast where you talk about if you have 5 acres or something in the Pacific Northwest or Montana area, what, as a permaculture person, you should do with your forest to mitigate fire. I would love to know. About
2 or 3 years ago, Alan Booker and I recorded something where we talked about that.
How do I not know it? Okay.
Yeah. You might want to listen to that one again.
Perfect recall.
And I think we gave each other, like, okay, you get 20,000 acres of wildfire bait, and what are you going to do? And so it turns out our recipes were very similar, but there's a reason why it's this bad in this way right now. And but I think another thing to point out is, like, in this area of Montana, the population that lived here 500 years ago, they saw the conifers as weeds, and they set the fires. They started because this is where we grow our food, and these weeds keep coming in and poisoning all of our food, so our food won't grow. So what we got to do is you got to keep burning this stuff out. So they would just burn it out and burn it out and burn it out. And then they would grow their gardens, which oftentimes had deciduous trees, which they would not try to burn out. But the conifers are a climax species, which will take out. Anyway, I can't remember anything else about the fine print about Hawaii, but I'm so glad that you came to my house, and thank you for coming and doing all the lovely things that you did while you were here. But I guess what I wanted to do is, I kind of feel like I've met so many people that went to Hawaii with permaculture dreams, and it went sour. I'm trying to not use the word nightmare. But they changed their mind, want to go home, and it turns out home is not Hawaii. And I've heard so many stories of how difficult it is. And the other thing is that when it comes to wage disparity, like Hawaii apparently is the pinnacle of wage disparity. Like the richest of the rich live there, and their properties are just hosed down in toxic gick for them to live there. And in the meantime, the other people, especially the native population on Hawaii, are treated like third-class citizens, and more so than in the rest of the United States. That's my understanding. Am I close?
That situation is bad. That's true. The preference is that if we would come and just take vacation and then go back home. That's the preference. I think
that's another thing too, is a tourist is worth 20 locals.
What?
So basically, a tourist is revered as a valuable and precious thing, whereas the locals are treated as dirt.
Well, I mean, by who? But if you move out there and be like, I'm going to move to Hawaii now, and I don't even know anybody in Hawaii, that's not as appreciated. People who grew up there, born there, grew up there, they're sort of taken in generally. Because like it's okay. Generally, I'm not an expert. I can't speak for other people. But you mean who is doing the valuing in this situation?
I'm thinking that government. I'm thinking the businesses there, and like when decisions are made about what's going to happen next or what's going to happen with that, stuff like that. The tourist industry is considered so brutally valuable, so important, that is held up very, very, very high. But people living there year round has less value.
It is a complicated system economically because if the tourism wasn't there at all, I think a lot of people living there, Native Hawaiians and locals, would be so happy. And then we did see that with COVID when people weren't allowed to come, that the ecosystem was healing. The fish were coming back to the reefs. Like a lot of good natural things were happening. However, most people's jobs, I don't know how much, my wild guess is 70% of people's jobs are either directly related to tourism or are sort of a trickle-down industry from the tourism industry. So the people who live there, where would the jobs come from?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a job related to that at all, you'd be like, oh, thank goodness, this burden is no longer on our shoulders. The burden we didn't ask for. However, if your job is related to the tourism industry, especially maybe a lot of people in your family, your job is a trickle down or directly related to the tourism industry, you're like, well, how am I going to get by? This income stream is gone. That's devastating. And so you don't want Native Hawaiians and locals there, you don't want them to have a devastating economic situation. So without something else healthy to replace it, what would be wonderful is to have a healthy economic system take its place. Maybe push it out of the way, take its place. Because right now money talks very loud, as it does in most places. And the tourism industry is all about the money talks situation.
So, and of course, for all those people, I want to read my skip book, and
yes.
I want them to learn about gratitude, and I want them to have a situation where it's resilient. I mean, it's kind of weird. Like I'm going, and that's kind of the thing that you and I were talking about a couple of days ago, and that is that how. We made up that guy Waldo, right? Waldo. We made up Waldo, and he knows for a fact that what he has to do is get a job to make enough money to pay the rent, and if he ever loses his job, then everything breaks, everything fails, and so and I'm kind of thinking like I'd like to take Waldo and teach him a little bit about gardening, and then teach him about skip, and then maybe he can, inherit $1 million of land and whatnot, and love the land, and then continue gardening, and he doesn't need a job. Whereas I think like right now Waldo's in a position that if he loses his job, he is screwed. He's got like just a few days to get a new job that pays as much, and that might be hard because he's broke. He's got a job and he's working long hours and he's broke, and so he's got no reserves. And so, and it's like, this is the way most people is like, this is the way it is. There are no options. And I think that the thing that you and I put into a podcast was something along the lines of, people can't make the mental leap to skip or to GERT. It's like, how do you move there? And I kind of like to think that in these podcasts, I've kind of talked at great length about how to transition from the norm, from Waldo's position over to Gert's position, and the steps you might take, and beginning with just like, can we just get a little brain space? And it's like just having the brain space is like where it really, really begins. But a lot of people, they won't allow it in their brain space for the Waldo reasons. So, okay, yes, those people in Hawaii, the industry shifts, and then it's like, rather than the industry saying, but don't worry, we'll still pay you even though we're in a bit of a slump, the industry instead says, ha 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 ha, sucks to be you! And so,
Generally, I think with most people, that's their experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have $80 billion. It's cool with, I'm fine. I'm okay.
That would be convenient.
It sounds like at the end of the year, I might have 79 billion, but that's, I've got enough to go for a while, but, oh, look at that. The price of real estate went up. Nope. Actually, I've got 85 billion. I'm doing okay. And so, but, what, you didn't plan ahead the way I did? You're dumb.
Another thing to think about in Hawaii, if you're thinking about having kids, is that a big problem for people who grow up in Hawaii is that they know that there aren't that many really good jobs there, and so a lot of the people's kids will fly away somewhere else because they need to get a job somewhere, and it's not going to be there. So how many Otises are in Hawaii? Like, if you want, how many? It'd be tough if you own your property in Hawaii and you have a house on it, you could probably make it. Because you could get the food pretty straightforward. But owning the house is a huge barrier. I think the starting homes are $700,000. Like that's not an easy starting home situation, especially if there aren't good high-paying jobs. So it can be really tough. Just the economic factors are even bigger than you might imagine.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about Hawaii?
Good.
Okay. What's that?
I think that's good.
That's good. Okay. If you like this sort of thing, come on out to the forums at Permis.com, where we talk about the fine print, homesteading, and permaculture all the time.
Put Paul's brain on your plot. Do you have a hunk of land but don't know where to start? Do you have a world-changing permaculture idea and you need some feedback? Do you feel like the guy in overalls may inexplicably hold the keys to all your wildest permaculture and homesteading dreams? Well, you're probably wrong. But if you want to give it a go anyway, you can hire Paul for a consultation. He will be all yours for a whole entire hour. Schedule your Paulversation today at Permis.com/consult. Permis.com/consult.